Hey guys, yeah, it's another diagonal, not sideways, but diagonal, vertical. I guess you could say. Is it vertical or horizontal or something like that? I don't know. But basically, a more straight, straight like kind of FaceTime, like video. But wanted to come on here and talk about a few things that's really interesting. As I just got dropped off by the bus, it's a little later than usual. It's about 7:37. Um, And it's maybe about 15 minutes down. He had to basically pick up, a lot of time because he was delayed. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is basically what happened last night on Dynamite. Um, as I mentioned, as I talked about, and kind of consider this a bit of a follow-up too. But basically on Dynamite last night, we all saw Saraya, formerly Paige in WWE, and Toni Storm turn heel. And what's interesting about it is, it looks like the story they might be trying to tell in AEW with this is it's going to be established, um, the established more well-renowned ladies of wrestling, the big-time names like Saraya and Toni Storm, going up against the AEW originals, those that have been there since day one, or basically against those that feel like they could be looked at as AEW originals, although like Saraya and Toni Storm, they came from, other places like WWE and such. But the big question that some people are asking is, are we going to get the first ever women's blood and guts match this year on Dynamite? Because that's normally what ends up on Dynamite. Are we going to get the first all women's blood and guts match, which is the version of War Games? And that is a good question, but here's where some people might feel like that might not be the case necessarily. You see, a lot of people feel that, if we're going to get a women's blood and guts match, that might be very risky for someone like Paige. Oh, not Paige, but for Saraya. And why, you may ask? Because basically the fact that she's coming back from injury. She was off for 5 years and everything, and now, people are thinking and feeling that with this new directive that they're going in with the ladies, that it potentially is going to lead to, Saraya, Toni Storm, and whoever else they get to align with them, basically competing against the originals, in the double cage, double ring, if you will, blood and guts war game match. And a lot of people feel that that's going to be a mistake, because what Saraya would be doing is risking her career by competing in such a match. She'd be risking her career by doing so. And look, I don't blame anybody for feeling that way when it comes to Saraya's health and everything, especially since she just recently came back after half a decade away, from the ring. I don't blame them for feeling that way, but if this is the storyline they're going with, going into the spring and such of the new year, if this is the storyline they're going with, then, well, if I'm Saraya and I'm like, hey, I'll be part of this as long as I can be part of the first War Games, then hopefully if I'm her, I've signed off on some kind of a agreement or something that, kind of, put the responsibility of my health and safety in my hands and not in the hands of Tony Khan or AEW. In other words, take any responsibility that may fall upon them off them. Basically, take any responsibility that may fall upon them off them. If it comes to her getting hurt, because again, if she was okay with doing the storyline to go heel along with Toni Storm, would be the like I say, the bigger named stars in the women's division that came from, mostly like from the WWE, trying to basically take over and make the women's division theirs. Again, if she agreed to be part of that and everything, as long as she would get to compete in the War Games match, hopefully part of the agreement, like you said, is she signed off on some kind of deal that says, hey, I'll take responsibility of whatever happens to me health-wise off of AEW's hands. That's the only thing I can think of that she would probably do to get involved in this, because again, I'm sure her family has talked to her about it. I'm sure her family's talked to her about it, if you will. And let her know the dangers that she could be facing, by allowing herself to go and compete in this kind of a match. I'm sure her family's, talked to her, and I'm sure she's like, hey, look, it's my decision, it's my responsibility, and maybe she even told them, look, I signed this deal that says, hey, whatever happens to me in that War Games match, it's on me, not AEW, not Tony Khan, and heck, not even you guys. It's on me. It's like hopefully she's agreed to take responsibility, for what's about to happen, maybe. But, is this the storyline, obviously, that the AEW women's division needs? Is this that storyline, that they need to get themselves over? That's the question. Because, the women on that roster, don't get me wrong, are very talented. In fact, if given the opportunity, they could, in a way, give certain women of WWE's roster and certain women of New Japan's roster a run for the money, in my opinion. Even, give some of the women of the Impact roster, a run for the money. But, again, that's just my opinion. But, like I said, if given the opportunity, they could do so. And if this is a storyline, basically about 4 years in, that's going to give them that opportunity to finally show, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're about, we need to be taken seriously, then I have nothing really against it. But, is doing this kind of storyline necessary, especially if it's putting someone that just came back from a career-ending injury at risk of her career being, altered again. Is that going to be worth the risk, if you will? Down the line, is it going to be worth the risk? I don't think so. I don't really think so. But again, if I'm Paige and I've decided, hey, I've signed off on this, I want to do this, because I want to prove maybe that she is fully capable of doing more than just a few matches, regular singles and tag matches here and there. If she is, if she's the one that, like I said, agreed to do this, do the heel turn thing and all that, as long as she could do the War Game stuff, then, so that she could prove that she is fully back, take that chance, then, who are we to argue with her decision? Now, the other question, obviously, when it pertains to this whole storyline, was this, developed? Was this storyline created, out of nowhere, or surprisingly, out of nowhere, by taking what a lot of people thought was the obvious direction, and that is turning Hikaru Shida heel and everything on Toni Storm and Saraya? Was this, done, was this decision to, flip things around, turn it in the opposite direction, was this done potentially to, with the fact that Merecdes Mone, formerly Sasha Banks, perhaps made a deal to come in, possibly, as I described in the last video, or I described in the description of the last video, come in, pay per appearance, to maybe, say, hey, look, I'm the one that, is behind Saraya and Toni acting the way they are. I'm the one that came up with the idea. I do apologize. The wind's picking up a little bit here, cold wind, that is. But was this done, if you will, to basically, bring Merecdes in on a pay per appearance, to establish the fact that she's the one, behind it. She's the one that, has caused or convinced Saraya and Toni to act the way they did. Is she the one behind it? Because we see that what she's doing, with New Japan, is she's kind of trying to be like an outsider there and everything, by even saying she's going to take the IWGP Women's Championship in any promotion she wants, and all that, and basically taking credit for the fact that New Japan is suddenly getting the recognition it's deserved thanks to her, somebody from the outside. So, so who's to say that maybe a deal wasn't struck to, have her come in once in a while and build upon that, and, build upon that little, I guess you could say, story that she's developing for herself as the CEO, and have her be the one responsible for all this, to prove that, hey, no matter who you are, if you haven't walked the path that myself and these two ladies have, and others, or maybe even four ladies, if they get Athena maybe, if you haven't walked the path we have, then you're not good. Then you're not, established names. You're nobodies. So, could she be the reason that this was suddenly done? Because she agreed to some kind of pay per appearance deal to kind of lead what many look at as an outsider WWE, WWE women's group versus the AEW. Like here's these WWE women invaders, now, letting themselves be known, who have snuck their ways in. Excuse me for a second. But like I said, could that be what it is? That she's going to reveal that she's led this group of, invaders, of women WWE invaders that basically snuck and, conned their way into AEW to eventually take over and prove that they're better than the homegrown talent? Is that what this is going to lead towards? Kind of an, very NWO-like maybe. I wouldn't say NWO-like, but NWO-inspired. Who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? But I will say this. If it does end up, building to the women's blood and guts match, it's going to be interesting who they choose to represent each side. Who they choose to represent the WWE women invader outsider NWO group, and who they'll have to represent the AEW homegrown talent. It'll be really interesting who they choose and pick to do that, if they go with the women's blood and guts match, as people are predicting they might. But let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think we will get a women's blood and guts match out of this? Do you think it's a good idea for Saraya to even be part of that, especially if she did just agree to do it, agree to do the heel turn, if she could do the War Games match? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below in the comments and in the live chat during the premiere. I am home now, guys, and I am out.